If you have facilitated a strategy session before and are looking for new approaches, or if you are new to strategy and want to gain an understanding of how to make it work, this one-day pre-conference session may just be for you. Hi, my name is Michael Wilkinson. I'm the Managing Director at Leadership Strategies, the facilitation company, and I've written 2 books, The Secrets of Facilitation and The Executive Guide to Facilitating Strategy, that are particularly relevant for this upcoming session. On May 9th, I'll be holding this session on the secrets to facilitating strategy. The objectives for this session are, 1, to provide a clear picture of the steps in the strategy process. So we want to make it very clear on, if you're using what we call the driver's model, the specific steps in that specific process. 2nd, want to go over specific techniques you use in facilitating a team through that model. And then finally, some key tips and pitfalls to avoid as you're going through it. Let me start with just a quick summary of the driver's models and the phase involved. Phase 1 is the situation assessment, where we're answering the question, where are we now? It starts typically with the management briefing. As you'll see, I call that our secret weapon because it's so powerful way for a client to recognize it would be very helpful for them to go through strategy. From the management briefing, we derive a briefing book which contains 5 different elements: stakeholder views, employee views, industry trends, partner information, current situation information. It often includes a 6th element as well, which is if we're working with a division of an organization, a department of an organization, we'll also gather upper management views. Now that ties into the phase 2, which are the strategy sessions. And out of those strategy sessions come 3 documents. The strategic plan document, the strategy layout that we'll talk about, the monitoring plan, and the communication plan. Well, then we go into monitoring, updating as a final stage in making it all happen. Well, the strategic planning process, the actual process and the development of the plan itself, is broken up into 2 halves, what we call strategic direction setting and implementation planning. So in this workshop, we're going to focus on 4 elements: the management briefing, strategic direction session, implementation planning, and monitoring and update. Those are all facilitated processes that we use in the driver's model. So let's take a look first at the management briefing, which I've called our secret weapon. See, what happens in this briefing is we get full buy-in from the management team by not starting with an explanation of strategy, but instead, as you can see here, starting with their key issues, that if we're going to have a strategic planning session, what are the most important issues that that session should address? So we start there. Then we focus on the driver's model. What is it? Then look at how do we modify the approach in the driver's model to ensure we're addressing their key issues. And then planning for the situation assessment and on through. So during this segment, during the class, we'll be talking through the management briefing. I will execute one for the entire class as we go through a case study. So we're asking the question, what are the most critical issues? And then we roll into the driver's model. And the driver's model takes about 30 minutes to describe, but it breaks down into 5 key questions. 1, you start with an accurate picture of today. Where are we today? Then you create a shared vision. Where do we want to be? Then this is the key step, understanding your barriers and critical success factors. We're asking the question, what's standing in our way? Why aren't we there already? And then key, what are the key conditions that if we create them will be like the fuel that jettisons this rocket to the vision? So what are the key conditions? Because oftentimes you can overcome your barriers and then find out there's something critical that wasn't done that needed to get done because you hadn't faced it as a barrier before. And so then your drivers become obvious. They're the things you do along the way to break through the barriers and create the critical conditions. And then finally, 5, monitor. How do you monitor your progress to get this plan implemented? Because far too often strategic plans are done, the work is put in, the time is taken, and yet they sit on a shelf with nothing executed. And you'll see in just a few minutes why that happens. It comes down to basic human nature. But when you're done, you have a strategy layout. Now this is an 11 by 17 page folded in half. So on the front page you see the vision, mission, the guiding principles, and the goals of the organization. As you turn open that page, you see the two half inside pages. The goals and objectives for the organization. You can see this organization had 5 goals, and each goal has a set of objectives showing baseline, first year, and third year. And then the critical success factors and barriers that are preventing those objectives from being achieved, and then the specific strategies to be implemented. So you can see a clear flow for each goal as you go through this strategy layout. I've highlighted here strategy 5 because you'll see on the back page then that strategy was one of the few strategies that became priority. And on the back page shows who's responsible for that priority, when it's going to be delivered, or how do you know what the deliverables, when it's done, what are the deliverables for that. And finally, you see the monitoring plan. What's going to happen monthly, quarterly, and annually to ensure that this plan gets implemented. So it's a nice fold-out, if you will, with the front page, the middle pages, and then the back page. Well, each of these priority strategies then have their separate 1- to 2-page action plan that says here's the strategy once more, the objective supporting it, who owns it, the deliverable to be achieved, and then the specific action steps, who's going to do it, by when, the number of person days, and the out-of-pocket costs to implement these steps. As you can imagine, when you get to action plans, you have an easily monitorable process for ensuring you're doing what you said you were going to do. So why do most plans fail? Is it because of phase 1, i.e. when you're getting the information for how it's going today? Generally not. How about during the strategy sessions? Nah, that's the fun part. You've got it. They fail in implementation, and more specifically during the monitoring phase. Why? It's human nature. Those things that aren't urgent don't get done. Our job is to make it urgent. And so we implement a 3-step monitoring process, and we'll be providing in the class the details behind each step. First step is a review of status of priority strategies, and it answers the question, did we do what we said we were going to do? That happens monthly. Quarterly, then, you answer a different question. Because you're reviewing performance against objectives, you're answering, are we making the progress we intended to make? And then finally, annually, you're asking a different question, are we going in the right direction? And through that, you update the strategic plan. So when you facilitate strategy, according to our book, The Executive Guide to Facilitating Strategy, there's 11 different processes that we teach in our 3-day course, The Secrets to Facilitating Strategy. So in this 1-day version, we can only cover a few items. So let me show you just now, in just the last couple of minutes, what do we do the way we cover goals? Just to give you a picture. We start out, of course, with the session objective, develop a 3-year strategic plan. Then we get their critical issues, as you heard in the management briefing. What are the most important issues that need to be addressed by the plan? Then we go through the SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. And our process we use is rotating flip charts to make that happen. And then rotating flip charts work well. Then, of course, it's always important for people to have fun when you're working with them. So we make that an important piece of what we're doing. Well, now it's time we get to the point where we're ready to facilitate goal setting. It's a 5-step activity: visioning, individual stories, small group work, categorizing, and goal writing. Let's take a look quickly how it works. So we ask them to vision out 10 years. We create a scenario in which they're receiving an award 10 years out for being a highly successful organization. Now, we create the scenario. They say they fill in the blanks for what they accomplished in order to achieve that award. So it's a fairly complex scenario, but it's in order to get them visualize what does success look like 10 years out. Each person creates their own individual story. And so they're writing down their stories of what they saw during the visioning exercise. Then we have them work in small groups. Each person has an opportunity to share his or her story. And then they record the common themes. What were the common themes among their team's stories? Now, these common themes then are grouped. Each team shares their common themes, and they're put up on the board as you see there, and categories are created as we're grouping them. Second per team gets up, we group theirs, third team as well, fourth team, as ever many teams are. And then you notice the group categories are written up on a single chart. This team had 6 different categories. Now notice, these categories are broad aims that define their success 10 years out. Well, think back, what's that sound like? Broad aims that define success, those are called goals. So we use this visioning process, all the steps we went through, to get this organization to see themselves successful 10 years out as an easy way for them to identify and highlight their goals. But notice, all they really have are the goal categories. What's needed are the descriptions, the words that describe. So how do we get the words? Well, we take the Post-its. Pulling the Post-its off the wall, we go through the Post-its for the first goal area. The team, the entire group, gives the words for describing those particular Post-its. And so we have our first goal done. Then they work in breakout groups to develop the goal statements for the other areas. Using the same model, they've seen it, they understand how it's done. You may see there in the foreground the strategic planning manual that every participant gets so they can use that as a guide. And sure enough, in their goal writing, they merged one of the goals. They started with 6, ended up with 5 goals to describe their organization's success 10 years out. Based on that, then, they're done with that segment. We celebrate successes every step of the way. So how do you facilitate strategy? Well, we cover these 11 processes in the 3-day course. One day, we can't do 11. And so what we do instead is we cover 5 of the common processes: the management briefing, the mission, the goals, the objectives, and the strategies as we go forward. A couple of special features that I want to point out if you are to take this workshop. First, you receive my book. At the workshop, each person will receive a copy of my newest book, The Executive Guide to Facilitating Strategy. You'll also receive 30-day access to Springboard Online. This is our online course that you get to take at your own leisure, and it allows you to review the driver's model at your own pace. So it's about a 4-hour curriculum that goes back through the driver's model so you can better learn what's a goal, what's an objective, what's a strategy, what's a critical success factor according to the language of the driver's model. Well, we're done. So come join us Wednesday, May 9th for the Secrets to Facilitating Strategy. I can guarantee you it will be a fun and uplifting time, and I suspect you'll walk away with many jewels that will help you go forward as you facilitate strategy and success for your organization. Thanks for listening.